What would your 10-year-old self think of you now? Write in the comments what you think about this. Enjoy the show. Story 1. Wow, you've become lonely since you've lost your grandparents. The rest of your family have grown distant with you, and you only have your dogs left that's keeping you sane and alive. Edit. Also, you've become a WWE and The Walking Dead fanatic, and that keeps rewatching these as it's your comfort shows. Story 2. He'd confused as he'd probably think that I am weird as fuck. 16-year-old me would think I am confusing as well, but he will be envious of me, and maybe he will think that I am stupid. 20-year-old me would dream of being me. He would be amazed, or rather won't believe me. 25-year-old me will think I have no clue what I'm up to. 30 me, I really don't have a clue, but I am happy. Story 3. The trauma goes on, but I am happy that you can stand up for yourself and you express your thoughts and feelings, especially the negative ones, without guilt. And even though you have not found your people yet, I am proud that you are resilient and you are still trying to make your life better. I wish more people could see you for who you are. I do, and I adore that you are a curly-haired walking contradiction. Story 4. If my 10-year-old self could see me now, they'd probably be fascinated by how much I've grown and evolved. Imagine them seeing a version of me that's filled with knowledge, capable of having conversations, and engaging with people from all walks of life. They might find it cool that I can help answer questions, provide advice, and chat about a wide range of topics. Story 5. I don't know. I honestly can't remember the state of my mind at that age. It feels like multiple lifetimes ago. At first, I think 10-YO me would be impressed by all of the things I've surrounded myself with. I wasn't very perceptive at that age and didn't have a firm grasp on what the real world was. I do think I would end up noticing that something was off. Now, if 10-YO me had knowledge of my life up to that point, he would be sad and disappointed. He would not want to be the person he met. You were supposed to be better than him, not become him. Story 6. Probably pretty cool with me. Have a good work-play mix, have an interesting job, live in a pretty cool and desirable area. Young me wouldn't care that I'm not rolling in money or have any of the cliche things we're taught to chase. Young me never thought of the future and what I wanted down the road. Hell, at 35, I'm still like that. Story 7. Reflecting on what my 10-year-old self would think of me now is quite a thought-provoking exercise. I imagine they'd be both surprised and curious. At 10, my world was filled with dreams and a sense of wonder about what the future held. Seeing the person I've become, they'd likely be proud of the achievements and the growth, both personally and professionally. However, they'd also probably have questions about the choices made along the way and the paths not taken. My 10-year-old self would be excited to see the independence and the ability to navigate the complexities of adult life. They'd be fascinated by the experiences and knowledge gained over the years. The aspects of creativity, perseverance, and kindness that were important back then would hopefully still shine through, reassuring them that some things remain constant. Ultimately, my younger self would see that while the journey was unpredictable, it was also rich with learning and growth, and that the future they once imagined has turned into a fulfilling reality. Story 8. I have a 3D printer and have made some incredible replicas of a Star Trek TNG phaser and a Klingon Dake Tog with a functioning blade switch that uses magnets for resistance. That alone would make my Star Trek-obsessed 10-year-old self's head explode on the spot. Outside of that, I'm a homeowner. I married an amazing hot redhead wife, and I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I get to spend as much time as possible hanging out with my toddler and finding adventures to go on regularly with him. I think 10-year-old me would be fucking impressed, and he'd be very impressed with my beard. Story 9. There's so much I would tell 10-year-old me so he doesn't end up like me. I would tell him leaving private school might actually be the best thing for him so he escapes the 3 years of psychological abuse in middle school. I would tell him that he needs to befriend the counselor who saved his life in high school sooner and just be honest about what happened. I would tell him to go back that January day in 2014 to tell her how much she meant to him because the next day she would be dead and she needed to know how much I loved her and I never got to tell her. I would just want 10-year-old me to be more honest because I knew as young as 10 my life was going to be a struggle, and it has been. I think he wouldn't be disappointed at all and would accept that all the pain we suffered made me into this. Story 10. She would think it's pretty cool I have 2 cats and live on my own in the middle of a big city. She would think it's sick I've done some solo traveling and have tattoos and talk to attractive guys. She would be pretty sad I still struggle with a lot of the same things I struggled with back then, and surprised I'm not focused on anything career-wise, ATM, and disappointed I make partying such a priority. Story 11. I am M29. He would be impressed. I make $41.60 an hour and own a house, and I have great friends. Only slight downside is I am autistic, and most judge me immediately. But that's okay. I am happy to prove to people that just because my face seems a bit screwed up and I talk weird doesn't mean I am slow. If I could warn him on anything, I would tell him that the road to success was extremely hard. I started out in 2014 at $8.25 an hour and kept quitting jobs for better paying jobs. I would also encourage him to continue his path on not following everyone else. Because while I am almost entirely debt-free, I see so many people around me miserable with kids on the path of divorce and at dead-end jobs. Story 12. I would be happy about some areas and sad about others. Happy I've got lots of friends, many of whom are still in my life from when I was 10. Happy I have a beautiful home and kids. I would be confused as to why I don't have a career yet and why I'm only just now going to school. I would be sad at some of the things I put up with. Story 13. I used to wish I knew more about many random subjects that would come up back in 1969 when I was 10. I look forward to going to the library to find books about them, or I'd just forget about them. I can find out about them immediately. My 10-year-old self would be so pleased and excited, although he would be a bit disappointed that I wasn't living on the moon or Mars. Story 14. He'd unalive himself because he wouldn't want to morph into a woke zombie loser bum who should just choke on their bile and die to save society the trouble. I was an angry, edgy, forced red pill kid on the inside. She just didn't know that the anger inside was self-hate. She didn't hate LGBTQIA plus people. She was scared to admit she was trans. 3, I had potential intellectually, and on the outside I was a nice kid, but I had this inner hate inside that I privately directed at marginalized groups. I still have a lot of anger problems, but I'm trying to get over it. But young me would throw her future away to avoid her egg cracking. Younger me hated herself. Current me is making up for the time younger me wasted ruining her life. Story 15. I hope she's proud of me. There was a good time frame when I didn't think I would make it through middle school, and then I did. Another part of me that didn't think I'd make it to 18, and then I did. Now I'm 26. On a lighter note, I think she would think it's very cool of me to have fully embraced my love of video games. There was no need to be embarrassed, and you'll find people who like the same things you do. Story 16. 10-year-old me was deeply depressed, paralyzingly shy with no friends to speak of, struggling in school and life and just learning to hide the overwhelming sadness due to it making mom cry. He'd probably be really confused and both happy for me and still sad as well. Now competent, confident, and sometimes really social, and the life of the party, and yet also a 33IO version of that 10-year-old. Just trying to make sure I keep it all hidden. Story 17. I think 10-year-old me would be confused. The only thing that I've done that 10-year-old me wanted to do was own a Mini Cooper. Unintentionally, I bought a 2002 Mini Cooper, and I was born in '92. So I did buy exactly the car 10-year-old me wanted. Now, if you talk to 15 or 17-year-old me, they'd probably be stoked. I found my dream girl, I have my dream car, yes, the Mini, and I have a job I like, got 2 dogs, no kids, as planned, and I was able to buy a house by the time I was 30. I wanted to do that by 25, so I'd have it paid off by the time I'm 55. But I can still do that. Just pay a little extra every month and you pay off a lot sooner. Story 18, geez. I would think I'm pretty cool, but I would be surprised at my way of being able to stand up for myself now. Setting boundaries, protecting my peace, saying when I feel uncomfortable. 10-year-old me would be jealous. She never got to feel emotions. She got told her emotions were bad, and she never stood up for herself. She always let people walk on her, even family. Not now. She'd be proud. Story 19. She would say, wow. She would say that she didn't know she could be so confident, not take anyone's shit, and to speak up about what's right and what's not kind. She would say she didn't think she would be the one to bully bullies and shut them down. She would say she didn't know that she would work in broadcast television and ultimately become an engineer, and her love of sports would be what brought her there, that she would travel all over for work. She would be in awe, and she wouldn't believe it could be. That little girl lacked a lot of confidence, but she found it by never being afraid to be smart. She may not have felt attractive or pretty and was told she was overweight and annoying at times, but she turned into a badass swan that turns heads everywhere she goes for different reasons. I wish that little girl was stronger, but she became it. Story 20. She'd be so happy, excited, and even hopeful for the future. To be fair, she didn't think we had much of one, but she loved Halloween and all things spooky. So growing up to look plus dressed like Morticia would have had her absolutely starstruck. I'd show her we can read easily now without struggling, that we aren't afraid of everything, that we married for love and they accept us as we are, and we don't hate ourselves anymore. I'd tell her about the clubs we go dancing at and how people there love us because we're kind and funny, that we do in fact belong somewhere, we just haven't gotten there yet, and it'll take time, patience, and self-love to get us there, but it's worth it. Story 21. He'd be stoked that I have a pure black herding mutt, kind of my dream dog, and she's the absolute love of my life, that little pup. He'd think it's lame that I didn't go into the creative arts, but he'd also probably respect that I work with children with disabilities now and hold a degree and specialized certifications to do so. He'd probably drop his jaw at the body count. Not that I care about a number now. I have since discovered romance means more to me personally. I think 10-year-old me assumed we'd never find anyone who would find us attractive, though. He'd be shocked that we ever got a tattoo, let alone multiple, but he'd be stoked they're nerdy tattoos. I've always loved Legend of Zelda, and my Majora's Mask patch leg of all the masks is growing every year. At 10 years old, he'd probably be confused why I don't have a wife and kids. He doesn't know we won't want kids when we get older. That was just a roadmap for someone else's life. I think ultimately he'd be impressed and feel pride. I never thought I'd graduate college, work with kids, love as many people as I have, or be as loved as I am, and be as cool as I am now. It's hard to say in the day-to-day haze of a busy and stressful life, but I do think I meet criteria for cool in my own book, even back then at 10, and that rules. Story 22. If she will see me outside, then probably be happy and say it's cool. If also inside, then probably sad about my mental condition, not so different than before, mad or hate me for not care of myself for so long and feeling hopeless all the time. When I was 10, I had more hope. My therapist was telling me to care of myself, thinking I'm that little girl what I was many years ago, and I can't. Story 23. He'd honestly probably be quite disappointed. I was a goody two-shoes, always had to be perfect golden child, never be bad, and always just do your best and try your best always and be kind to everyone. I'm still pretty kind and run on the whole, treat others how you want to be treated mindset, and I'd like to treat it nicely, so I still am nice and everyone says I'm friendly and warm. But 10-year-old me would never think of drinking or smoking, and I've ended up as a chain-smoking alcoholic, haha. I think I had goals and dreams at that point, but I don't really remember them. At this point, I don't really want anything or have any goals and just kind of exist. Sorry, little man. Story 24. Hell yeah. I had zero confidence as a kid. I'm the version of myself I wished I could have been when I was a kid. And as a teen, I'm finally confident in my own body and have a good career with a house before I'm even 25. Now it's just finding someone to share it with, which has been hard, but all in due time. I'm actually happy, satisfied with living right now, and I couldn't say the same until I was about 21. It took me that long to find myself. Never stress about who you are or who you used to be. Focus on being a better you, and you will get to discover who you can be. Story 25. He would probably think I suck because I was too young to see things clearly, and that likely makes my younger self a harsh judge. I had great and impractical ambitions when I was 10. Those ambitions got tempered by a combination of things. Time and a developed, if imperfect, understanding of economics and life in general changed the lens through which I looked at my life and goals. I did not turn into the person my younger self envisioned, but I'm doing the best I can. Story 26. When I was a teenager in 1984 in Burbank, California, I was sitting on the corner of West Chandler Blavid at North Cordova Street and was just having the worst possible day a teenager could have. And I thought to myself, I just want to skip all this shit, all the bullshit. I just want to be old and done with all this shit and not have to deal with it anymore. I often smile when I realize that wish came true. Here I am right now, done with all that shit. I know most of the stuff that got me here, but if I close my eyes, I know no time has really passed either. There's still that kid sitting there having that day, and I wish he could know it all turns out all right. It was just one bad day out of a pretty good life. Story 27. Fun fact, it's actually that specific reaction that has been the impasse that has ruined my life. As I've conceptualized it before, I can't go back in time to every kid rumbly scrub that chose to save that dollar, that chose to postpone his wants and desires, that chose to forego each and every opportunity he had to be a kid and get down on one knee and say, listen, sport, you think you're saving that money for you. You think you're saving it to build a nest egg, to have an advantage in life when it's time to finally move out. But guess what? You're not. Someone who you don't even know, who has no idea of and no appreciation for the self-control you're exercising now. Someone who will eventually know when you open your heart to them, won't give a flying fuck about it. This person will make you fall in love with them, coerce you into a drug addiction, isolate and entrap you in a relationship, and parasitically leech all your money from you. Then, when you're tapped out, they'll pull a gun on you and tell you to leave, keeping all of your physical belongings to sell for more money. You'll be left with nothing. The cops will hang up on you 9 times when you call them. A lawyer will tell you verbatim, be thankful she let you keep the clothes on your back, and you will be expected to just return to work, as if you're not an addict. No justice, no understanding. You will be unheard and your pain will die with you. So go ahead, crumbly grub, save that dollar. Save the next 21,000 of them. They won't be yours to keep. The resulting powerlessness rage that each and every kid scrumbly cherub will feel is what I cannot integrate without homicidal actions. And thus, the end result is me in limbo, unable to integrate the person I am, because the person I am, the parts of me that know who I am, that have aspirations, that want to build a life, demand blood. So crumble scrumble is the definition of a time bomb, and no therapy will ever help, because therapy is designed to enable coping. Coping with such a reality is traumatic itself, because if all crime is legal so long as I'm the victim, then all crime ought to be legal so long as I'm the perpetrator too. So to answer your question, 10-year-old Scud Crumper would want to commit several well-earned homicides if he saw me today. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.